you haven't seen by now, but two of Australia's richest people, being Anthony Pratt and Gina Rinehart, were invited to Trump's inauguration. And not only that, they took out full-page ads in newspapers in America to congratulate him. This one's Gina Rinehart's in Wall Street Journal, pause to read, and this one's Anthony Pratt's in New York Times. So I'm going to take this moment to remind everyone that Gina Rinehart is best mates with Peter Dutton and Pauline Hanson. And we as a country really need to start thinking, do we want her in our politics? Please think about it. But anyway, I can't wait to see the footage of Gina Rinehart popping a lock into Nelly and Snoop Doggy Dogg.
As far-right leaders worldwide face legal troubles and political downfalls while distancing themselves from Trump, one man remains unwavering in his support for Trump, and that's Peter Dutton. Let's take a look at the state of far-right leaders around the world. Francis Le Pen, convicted of embezzlement, sentenced to prison and banned from running for office. Brazil's Jair Bolsonaro, ousted, facing multiple investigations and politically isolated and cannot participate in elections. Even the UK's Nigel Farage stepping back, distancing himself from the chaos. But here comes Peter Dutton, not just remaining loyal, but doubling down on his admiration for Trump, pledging his first official visit as PM would be to the man others are now avoiding. As the world watches these leaders face the consequences of their actions, Dutton's unwavering commitment raises questions. Is this the direction we want Australia to take? Leadership is about learning from global events, not repeating mistakes. Let's show Peter Dutton the door. Undoubtedly, you've heard of Donald Trump. Now meet Australia's own version in Gina Rinehart. She funds Peter Dutton. She wants to megafy Australia. Tony Holt Kramer, founder of Trumpeats USA, calls Gina Rinehart a female Donald Trump. And Rinehart doesn't just admire Trump. She's styling her company headquarters in MAGA aesthetics. A silver sculpture to honor a MAGA meme. A plaque with an Elon Musk anti-government quote. A drain the Billabong kangaroo mural. You can't make this stuff up. She attends Trump's private dinners. She celebrated alongside far-right leaders like Nigel Farage, and now she's personally backing Peter Dutton to bring MAGA to Australia. She's hosted fundraisers. She wants to kill renewables, cut taxes for billionaires, and silence environmental protectionists. And Dutton, he's all in. His first official act as PM, fly to the US to visit Trump. Not Southeast, not the Pacific, but a man most democratic leaders now shun. If Rinehart is Trump's twin and Dutton is her puppet, ask yourself, what happens to your rights, your wages, your energy bills, your country? Gina wants to make Australia MAGA. Peter Dutton is her ticket. This isn't a political campaign. It's a hostile takeover. Let's vote to tear down this billionaire puppet show. You know, it's bad when even Nigel Farage, the walking, talking meme of fascists and oligarchs, is backing away from Trump. But not our mate Dutton. Nope, he's still sprinting into the MAGA fire. Nigel Farage, the Brexit poster boy, the human soundbite, even he is quietly stepping back from Trump. Why? Because Trump's presidency has already sparked economic chaos, diplomatic isolation, tariffs that send prices skyrocketing. But guess who's still doubling down on the chaos? Peter bloody Dutton. Dutton's so obsessed with Trump, he's promised his first official visit will be to Mar-a-Lago. Not Beijing, not Jakarta, not climate summits, Trump's Florida palace. He's mimicking Trump's greatest hits, gutting public institutions, blaming immigrants, propping up coal barons like Gina Rinehart, even as Trump's own allies are starting to jump ship. Think about that. Nigel, milkshake target Farage, is saying maybe not Trump, but Peter Dutton? Oh no. He's like, get me a MAGA hat and a selfie with Peanut the squirrel. If Peter Dutton is more MAGA than MAGA itself, we've got a real problem. Let's tear down this billionaire puppet show.
Gina Rinehart, Australia's richest person, popular artistic muse, and author of what's been called the universe's worst poem, is our subject on today's episode of Eat the Rich. Gina made a vast fortune, mostly through mining, and has been named the world's richest woman on several occasions. She inherited a large part of this from her father, Lang Hancock, who needs a video of his own. But just a taste of this guy. In a 1984 TV interview, he suggested forcing Indigenous Australians to collect their welfare checks from a central location, and then, quote, "I would dope the water up so that they were sterile and would breed themselves out in the future." Not to be outdone by Daddy, though, Gina spent her life working really hard to exploit as much as possible from this beautiful country and its people. Gina is the world's 4th largest landowner, right behind the British royal family, Catholic Church, and the Inuit people of Nunavut. Her company, Hancock Prospecting, works mainly in iron ore, but they're also partnered to work in coal, agriculture, and lots of other highly polluting sectors. Pit mining, which is what they use, has terrible environmental impacts like heavy metal contamination into water supplies, erosion, and biodiversity loss. Gina's exploitation extends to her kids, too. 3 of her children are embroiled in a legal battle right now over Gina's supposed scheme to defraud them of billions from her father's estate. You can kind of guess where she sits on the political spectrum as well. Gina's been a longtime advocate for Western Australian secession, a Northern Australian free trade zone, opposes any taxes on the mining industry, obviously, and is an avid denier of man-made climate change. She idolizes Margaret Thatcher's work ethic and strongly supports Donald Trump. She donates millions every year to the Institute for Public Affairs, a conservative think tank that is one of the largest promoters of climate science denial in Australia. Gina also says that media should be able to protect and present climate change as a natural phenomenon, which is super concerning given that she has significant shares and board seats on organizations like Fairfax Media in the past. Most recently, she delivered a 16-minute video address to students at her former high school, calling on them to, quote, do their own independent research and not fall for the, quote, propaganda of the education system. In talking about Australia's economic competitiveness, Rinehart said that Aussies should spend less time whinging and drinking and more time working, adding that, quote, Africans want to work, and its workers are willing to work for less than $2 a day. Guess the apple doesn't fall that far from the tree, does it? Don't worry, though, because Gina calls herself the, quote, Iron Lady of Philanthropy. She's been a longtime supporter of Australian swimming, going so far as to credit herself with saving the sport. Since 2012, she's given $60 million to swimming, the largest individual contribution to an Olympic sport anywhere in the world. This goes to paying swimmers' salaries and awarding them for medals. Why would she do this, you ask? Well, as seen in the Vincent Namatjira scandal, so she can have a group of young, impressionable, good-looking athletes at the ready to defend her in the media. But don't cross her, or else you'll have your funding pulled like she did with Netball Australia, when players expressed concern about wearing the logo for Hancock Prospecting, given her father's awful views towards Indigenous people. Gina also makes a big deal of her work, endowing scholarships for young Cambodian women. She calls them her daughters, and has even received the highest honor for non-Cambodian citizens. While this is of course very laudable, the details may leave you a bit disappointed. Full financial support goes to 3 people a year to study law, human rights, or social sciences. The cost of a 4-year degree in Cambodia, though? About $4,000. For a woman worth $31 billion, spending $48,000 a year putting 12 girls through school doesn't really seem that charitable. It seems like a tax write-off. Ironically, she also supports the National Breast Cancer Foundation. Seeing as how mining has been linked to causing various cancers, it kind of seems like the call's coming from inside the house. Even better, she's now trying to rebrand herself as a green energy champion. Last year, she invested $500 million into lithium mining and has been campaigning hard for nuclear energy. In a rare public address, she called on the government to front the costs for farmers to go net zero, praised King Coal, and begged Australia to, quote, bring on clean, safe, nuclear energy. But this just scratches the surface on this succubus of a human. For any Aussies who want to add their own favorite Gina Rinehart story in the comments, I'm not going to stop you.
As I have repeatedly stated, we need to cut government tape. We need a USA-style DOGE. Doge.
Elon Musk's ideology seems to be centered entirely around reading Ayn Rand when he was 15. Yes, I will counter Das Kapital with Fountainhead. Here's my view of the world. Have you read Harry Potter 4? Yeah, I'm going to base my political leanings off of fighting evil with magic. So he comes in with Doge, which is, guys, It's a joke name. Yeah, this whole I'm going to cut efficiency. I can't remember. What was it again? He was going to cut something like, what was it? A couple of $100 billion out of the deficit or something. That's not going to happen. You are not going to be cutting this much out of it, because then you'll have to start going against the defense industry, which is their version of the mining industry. And that's never going to happen. We need a Doge. We need a fictitious, made-up government department that isn't going to do anything. That's what this country needs. That's why we're going to elect Peter Dutton.
Doge is cutting so much spending that the government is literally spending more than they did last year. And the year before that. And the year before that. And the year before that. That's Trump Math 101. Also known as the art of the deal.
Australia's richest woman has failed to get this painting of her removed from the National Gallery because it captures her true colors. You see, this work was done by the famous indigenous artist Vincent Namatjira. Vincent is known for painting powerful people in the way that he sees them. Many of these people are shady, and Vincent uniquely captures this for people to become aware of. One of the shady people that he's painted is Gina Rinehart, a multi-billionaire who owns a massive Australian mining company. Now, Gina and her company have had a really horrible history with indigenous people. Gina's dad, who founded the company, was openly racist towards them. When Australia's indigenous population rightfully complained about his company destroying their sacred land, Gina's dad asked the Australian government to exterminate all indigenous people through sterilization. And Gina, who took ownership of the mining company from her dad, has shown that she feels the exact same way. She has continued to destroy indigenous land and has had multiple conflicts with Australia's indigenous population in the past. So Vincent, who is indigenous, wanted to show this in his portrait of her. Since Gina is a notoriously vain person, when she saw this unflattering portrait of her being displayed in Australia's National Gallery, she immediately demanded that it be taken down. Although Gina is a large donor to the NGA, the gallery still refused in the name of art.